Welcome to Daddy Issues. Conversations with Dads. A podcast from Fathers and Families Center of Indianapolis, Indiana. You know, being a dad is the most rewarding job in the world. It's also the most challenging. I'm Jason Acquisto, father of one son, age 19, along with the president and CEO of Fathers and Families Center of Indianapolis, Larry Smith, who's the father of 3 and grandfather of 2. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning, Jason. How you doing?
I'm good. How's it going with you?
It's going well. I keep telling my 2 teens that they're not going to break my spirit. It's going well. They actually have a musical tonight, Little Shop of Horrors. My son is the lead, and my daughter is one of the 3 female singers. If you've seen the movie or seen the play, so looking forward to seeing them perform tonight.
That's pretty cool. So musical theater. Now, were you in musical theater as a kid?
I was not. They certainly wouldn't let me in.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
My childhood pastor would talk about he would say that he couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. I'm in that category. So.
Right. Well, there's a place for all of us, though. You know, and when I was in school, they would let me in, but they would bury me in the chorus. No solos for me. But you're one of the townspeople. Yeah. So you're fine. Just blend in. So our guest today is Dr. Maggie Stevens. Dr. Stevens serves as the president and CEO of Foster Success, an Indiana-based nonprofit organization working to hear, empower, and support teens and young adults who have spent time in foster care as they transition into adulthood. It is Foster Success. So welcome, Dr. Maggie Stevens.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Tell us about your mission at Foster Success. I can read the mission statement, but tell us really what your work looks like at Foster Success.
Great. Well, you did. You read the mission really well. So let me tell you how we live the mission and what we do. As you stated, we are a nonprofit organization. We work across the state of Indiana to support teens and young adults as they're moving from what I talk about sometimes as case-managed childhoods into independent adulthood. So if you think about your own lives or, as you've talked about being parents yourselves, the things either that people provided to you as you were moving, into your own independent life, or the things that you might be able to provide for your own children, those are some of the things we try to wrap around our young people and support them through. So that could be, we work in a number of areas, and we provide programs and resources in 5 impact areas. Those are educational success, financial empowerment, health and well-being, workforce readiness, and youth engagement. And under each of those impact areas, we have, 3 or 4 different programs that really try to meet young people where they are. We're working with young people who are 14 to 26 years old. So again, wide range of points in life and a variety of needs and goals. And so what we do is try to work with each person individually, help them determine their path, their goals, and what we can do to support them. We are not case managers. We work side by side with case managers if they're still involved in foster care. Many of them have truly aged out of the system and may not be involved in any DCS or extended foster care services. But we really want to help them get to the point where, if they want to go to college, we try to help, we help them find the right college and move forward that process. If they want to jump right into the world of work, we try to figure out how we can help them find work that will provide them a living income. So again, they can start to take care of themselves. It's heartening and humbling is how I describe the work every day as we get to know the young people that we're able to impact.
So first of all, I want to share, I don't think I shared this already with Jason, but Maggie was one of the first people I met when I took over my role at Fathers and Families. She was kind enough to sit down with me. And in that conversation, she asked if our clients at Fathers and Families, if we were aware whether our clients had been in the foster care system. And I said no. And so now at what we call intake, we ask that question. And if so, we refer them to Foster Success. So I appreciate you taking the time. You didn't know me from Adam, and took time for me, and I really am grateful for that. One of the things that strikes me is that I'm assuming that most people don't know the amounts, sort of the scale of foster kids in our system today in Indianapolis or in Indiana. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So, yeah, I mean, I think when we talk about the number of people in foster care, the number of individuals in foster care, we as an organization really cut that two ways. One, the state reports all the time the number of individuals in foster care, and this is from infants to young adults, right? Mm-hmm. We are specifically working with that teen and young adult population. So if you look today, as of the end of April, there were 11,500 plus individuals in foster care in Indiana. And the good news is the number of individuals in foster care continues to decrease in the state of Indiana. We're seeing fewer children enter foster care, which is great. I think a lot of us, would say our ultimate goal is to put our nonprofits out of business because our communities don't need our support anymore. So, I mean, we're not there, but we're seeing the numbers come down. What's interesting, though, is when we start to talk about that older foster youth population, again, those 14 to 26-year-olds in our state, and we consider anyone who spent any time in foster care as a teen part of our mission population. And so they might reunify with their family, they might get adopted. Most of them are truly aging out of foster care. And so when we look at that wide array of individuals, we are looking at 24,000 Hoosiers who, again, teen to young adult, spent time as an individual in foster care. And again, it could have been a couple days, it could have been their entire teenage years, right? So we're really working through our program delivery, through our policy work, through our research work to change the systems that surround them to help them move forward and achieve their goals.
Question, what are the ages that someone can be, what the age range, I should say, for someone to be eligible for foster care?
Anyone, any child, from the time they're born, could enter foster care. In Indiana, we have been fortunate enough that Governor Holcomb, each time that there's been an opportunity by federal law to extend foster care services, he has signed on and allowed our state to do that. And so when somebody turns 18 in foster care in Indiana, they have a choice. They can exit care and say, I'm done. Or they can opt into what we call collaborative care or extended foster care. And the way things sit today, young people can stay involved in collaborative care until their 21st birthday. And the goal, again, of collaborative care is really to help young people learn independent living skills. Their case managers are called independent living specialists. This is an opportunity where young people, they could be living on a college campus, they could be getting their own apartment, but again, really focused on helping them learn those independent living skills. And then there are some additional services that DCS can provide young people up until their 23rd birthday. It's kind of a step down process, and it's not the same level of case management that we see with collaborative care. But 18, 21, and 23 are kind of those key dates. Or ages, I should say, when young people are transitioning in and out of different parts of the foster care system. And then what I feel really fortunate about with our work, we can actually support young people until their 26th birthday. And whether they're 18, 21, or 26, regardless of their relationship with DCS, they can engage in our programs. They don't have to have an open case with DCS. And so we can, again, provide a lot of those wraparound supports, often in collaboration with DCS, but many times, just independently as well.
So my question is, when they age out of the process or out of your system, what are some of the goals for them at that point, if someone is aging out of the system, what would you like for them to have gained or be taking with them?
I think at a very high level, I hope that the young people have developed some type of network of support. Because regardless of what happens with work, school, housing, anything else, if you have some people that you can fall back on, then that's going to make a difference, right? And that's going to help you work through those challenges. But then if you get down to the nitty gritty of it, we do want them to be on a path, where they're either working to or have completed whatever educational goals they have, technical certificates, training, workforce readiness programs, et cetera. We hope that they are in some type of stable work and hopefully in something that's going to grow into a career for them, or at least consistent and ready work. We focus on the whole person though too. So we want to make sure that they're getting the mental and physical health support that they need as they're moving along. We want to make sure that we give them the tools so that when they're no longer involved in our programs, they know how to problem solve and they know how to work in their community to achieve their goals beyond what we can even help them do.
You're listening to Daddy Issues. We'll be right back after a short break.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites, like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies, like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee for your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply. If you're waking up feeling like you could use a few more hours of sleep, the problem might be right underneath you. Better quality sleep comes with a better quality bed. And the Sleep Number Smart Bed uniquely contours to your head, neck, and shoulders for a more comfortable sleep. It's a total game changer. All night long, you can count on your Sleep Number Smart Bed to automatically respond and adjust to your movements so that you can sleep comfortably all night long, which feels amazing after a tough workout. You can even get personalized insights about your sleeping habits to help you sleep better. It's like having a coach for your best sleep. And now during Sleep Number's biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition Smart Bed, plus special financing for a limited time. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, official sleep and wellness partner of the NFL. See store for details.
Welcome back to Daddy Issues. Jason Acquisto here, along with Larry Smith. We're talking with Dr. Maggie Stevens, the president and CEO of Foster Success, a not-for-profit based here in central Indiana. Dr. Stevens, it sounds like the skills that you're describing in your program that you're equipping folks with mirror those of us as parents. I mean, you're trying to offer them a set of tools that we hope our children, when they leave the nest, also have, right? And I think that's probably intentional.
Absolutely. We have no desire to become parent figures for any of the young people we're working with, but we do want to be able to provide a lot of those same experiences, resources, and supports that any of us would provide our own children. I have 2 teenagers myself. And so I think over the past few years, I've seen more and more as I'm having experiences with my own children. It heightens my awareness to some of the experiences that the young people we work with at Foster Success may or may not have the opportunity to have.
To that point, I'm glad you made that point about not trying to be parents. I think though, for the average person, which includes me, what are some of the key differences, say, between you're a parent as well, so being a biological parent, a foster parent versus an adoptive parent? What are some of the challenges that differ for arenas?
Yeah, I think, when we think about foster families and foster parents, again, for me, when I talk about foster care and think about things, a foster care placement in an ideal situation is a temporary placement, right? Well, we're helping the family gain some stability. In an ideal situation, our community and other support systems are coming in before a child's even placed in foster care. So as we think about the role, if we do get to the point where a child is placed in foster care, one of my hopes is that foster family is providing some stability for that child. Unfortunately, we know that most of the time when children are removed from a home, there is some type of traumatic experience that has happened that has led to that removal. And the reality is, regardless of what led to the removal process and the foster care placement itself is traumatic, right? So we need adults to be in their lives. We need foster parents in their lives. We need a community of adults, really. So in our schools, our healthcare providers, et cetera. But specifically with the foster parents, we need them to provide a safe and secure space for these young people, where, when we think about the teens that we're working with, and you think about teens in general, right? That is a point in our lives as you move through teenage years and even your young adult years, you're trying to figure out who you are as a person, regardless of your living situation and your family situation. You're working through a lot. And so when you layer these traumatic experiences on top of that, the need for safe, secure relationships and spaces is even more important to help our young people work through these situations. One of the things that I've seen recently happening that I think is really interesting, it takes a lot of work on the parts of all parties, but really is a co-parenting model between a foster parent or a foster family and the birth parents or the biological family. And the idea that while the child is in a foster care placement, there's still regular engagement, not only in, what you might expect with visitations or experiences like that, but actually, co-parenting and decision making. It takes a lot of vulnerability, from the birth parent to be willing to engage in that relationship. And it takes a lot of work from the foster parent to be able to say, I'm going to work with you side by side on this. And then ideally that child is able to return to their home of origin, and there's still that relationship there. Again, providing some continuity and stability for that child as we're thinking through it. So that would be my hope more than anything is creating safe, secure spaces for our young people.
What are some myths, MYTH myths about foster care that we have?
That's a good question. Well, I can let me speak about this a little bit from our young people's perspectives. A lot of them I know carry shame in being a part of the foster care system. And what we try to help them understand is the reality is that they are in foster care truly through no fault of their own, right? Adults have let them down or have not been able to meet their needs, right? And so one of the things we really try to work with our young people on is helping build self-esteem, worthiness, and the opportunities that are provided to them, and helping them, find those experiences for themselves. I think beyond that, I think our parents, our biological families, our birth parents are working really hard to try to reunify with their kids. And often they're dealing with challenges, whether it's health related, addiction, mental health, that just, they need a lot of support. And so I think, I don't think there's any one situation that profiles every foster care situation. And so again, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work, and a lot of energy, because these are unique situations that we have to support them through. And so if I was going to try to break down any myth, it would be, that the parents are not taking the easy way out. They're working really hard to try to reunify with their kids. And I think it's interesting, our young people that we work with, they have strong ties to their biological families, regardless of what has happened in their past. And I think that surprises a lot of people, is the desire for our young people to reunify and stay connected to their families, depending on what traumatic experiences they've had. So that family of origin connection is strong.
And, speaking of, making an ideal situation for the young person, what is the ideal candidate? What is the profile, if you will, of the ideal candidate for someone to become a foster parent?
An open heart, a warm heart. I mean, really, I think it takes a lot of selfless love, really, I think, to be a foster parent. I've not been a foster parent. I can't speak to that. But you're really stepping into somebody's family in a time of need. And I think in the truest sense of foster parenting, the idea is, right, you're helping for a temporary period of time. And it takes a lot to do that in a really selfless way, to give a lot of yourself so that another family can attain stability. But I really do think that most, if you have an empty bedroom in your house and a heart to give to your community, I think you're a great candidate to be a foster parent.
And what is that process like to become a foster parent?
So we don't license foster parents. So I don't want to speak too much out of turn here, but I think, first and foremost, you could contact the Department of Child Services. They have regional offices across the state, and they could get you connected to some foster care opportunities. Right. There are also independent foster care providers all across the state, a number of agencies that license foster parents. And so once you connect through one of the, either through DCS or one of these other organizations, then there is a licensing process. I believe that there's some, temporary licensure that you can get in order to start doing some different hosting of young people. Once you're licensed, which, includes background checks, visits to your house, and, to make sure that you're providing a safe and secure space for this child to come into. Then there's regular, every year there's continuing education opportunities and requirements for foster parents to make sure they're up to date on things, and really staying connected. But there's young people come into foster care with different experiences and different needs, right? Whether they're social, physical, behavioral health needs. And so there are different types of training that people would need depending on if they're taking somebody with, more extreme needs or more severe needs, and what the situation is. Individuals can also get involved in what are called respite care services. And these are what I would consider more of a short-term placement, or they are short-term placements, where a family, you may say, I'm not in a position to bring a child into my house indefinitely and work with them through the foster care experience, but I want to provide respite basically to other foster families. And so, they will host a child for a week or for a weekend, when that foster family, might be traveling, and for any number of reasons, the foster child's not going to go with them. Or there are other services, even when a child's not in foster care, that can provide respite to the biological families. I've seen situations, I know of people who have worked through some of those programs, and you may have a single parent who needs to spend a couple days in the hospital for a medical procedure, and they don't have family to care for their child. And so there are individuals, and this is separate from foster care, but it's related, right? This idea of providing support to families when they may not have it, through the ways you and I find our support.
Respite care. In terms of the services that you provide, workforce readiness, financial empowerment, educational success, and so on, is there any of those areas that really stands out in terms of, the difficulty, if you will, of success that the youth really struggle with, or are they all pretty much the same?
It's interesting. We were talking to somebody yesterday. They were interviewing us for a research study specifically looking at financial empowerment programming, but they coupled into financial empowerment and financial stability, workforce, and education. And so, as you ask that, I'm thinking about the interplay of all of these different things. I think for me, helping young people understand the possibilities. There's an exposure gap there. They may not know what the world of work could be. So I see that as just something that's not unsurmountable, but that we work really hard to help them understand what is out there in the world of education and work. But when I get into a really technical or nitty-gritty space, I think the financial management, financial literacy is tricky. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One of the programs that we manage is a credit building program, because we are finding young people who have no credit history. they may have bad credit history, sometimes because they made some poor choices, or sometimes because somebody, opened utilities in their name when they were a child and it didn't get corrected, right? Or, they have, like I said, they have no credit. Either situation is not helpful in our community. You want to go buy a car and you don't have credit history, you're going to pay a higher rate, or you're not going to qualify for a loan because our young people don't have an adult to co-sign for them. If my daughter was going to buy a car, I could co-sign with her. And, based upon my credit history, the bank's willing to loan her money because they know that I'll back her. For our young people, they don't have an adult to do that. They don't have that credit history. We have a young man in school down in Bloomington. He moved into an apartment last year, went to sign the lease with a couple of roommates. It was a situation where each tenant had their own lease, even though they were in one unit together. His roommate, whose parents co-signed on his lease, had to put down a $500 deposit. The young man that we worked with had to put down a $1,500 deposit because he didn't have anyone to co-sign for him. When I think about like those big challenges and barriers, I mean, that's just something out there. It doesn't matter how hard you work to go to school, what training you get, you're still going to run into those barriers. And so, I mean, sometimes we can convince a landlord to wiggle a little bit there, but I get it. They have to protect their property. They need, they're looking at different things. And so, when we can't help renegotiate some of those terms, we try to provide some financial support to offset that differential for our young people. Because when you're 20 years old, $500 is a lot. $1,500 is three times a lot. And those are the barriers that our young people run into that most, you and I, might not think about, because we are able to co-sign on these things for our kids, or help them navigate that pathway. One of the things that we did this session down at the State House, really over the last 2 sessions, was create the Ensuring Foster Youth Trust Fund. And this is a fund that can receive private, state, and federal dollars to do 2 things. One, help pay for those behind the wheel driving hours that every teenager needs to get their driver's license. You need 50 hours to get your license. DCS will pay for driver's ed, and that includes 6. But there are a limited number of people who can sit behind the wheel or sit in the car with your child while they drive those other 44. So now with this fund, we can pay for a certified driving instructor to be the person in the car with that young person. And then the second thing that we find is that whether they're a minor struggling to find an insurance company who will insure them, or they're 18, 19 years old trying to get auto insurance, getting your own policy as an 18 or 19-year-old, as opposed to being added to a family policy, can cost 3 to 4 times as much. And so again, with this fund, our hope is that we can offset some of that cost differential so that you're not, behind the gate before the race even begins, right? And so that you can, we can at least attempt to level some of those playing fields, especially when they come to dollars and cents and thinking about things.
So this is Daddy Issues. Our guest today is Dr. Maggie Stevens, President and CEO of Foster Success. It's hard enough, Dr. Stevens, to grow up. It's hard enough to parent. And then you layer in the challenges that you've been speaking of. And wow, there are things that you wouldn't think about. For example, racking up the hours that you need to get your license, like you just spoke of. Foster kids and those coming through the program, a different set of challenges, a whole new layer of things they have to jump through. What have you seen as a parent or how has this affected you as a parent, your work?
I think for me, it's made me appreciative of what I'm able to provide for my own children. Hopefully has made my children appreciative of what I'm able to provide for them. I don't know that always clicks, but, I think some days it does. I'm hopeful that my work has made me a more empathetic parent, and I hope that my parenting has made me more empathetic at work, right? And thinking about what we're all trying to work through. And again, at the end of the day, I think my work has shown me how resilient people are, and that regardless of what's happening in their lives, a lot of times they're going to power through. They might stumble, and we're there to support them or connect them to other partners. And I think, again, as a parent, it puts things in perspective, and provides me gratitude, I think, for what I'm able to do.
Yeah.
Well, I just have one more question, and that is, obviously your organization is called Foster Success. Do you have some success stories that you can share with us?
Oh, yeah, sure. Gosh, where to start? These are the things that you always know, and then when you're put on the spot, you're like, wait, what were all those success stories? So, I mean, one, we had a young woman who came to us a couple years ago. Well, probably about a year and a half ago now. We were just relaunching our credit build program that I mentioned before. And she did some other work side by side with going through the credit build program. But over a 12-month period, she increased her credit score more than 100 points through making on-time payments, participating in a number of different things. And about 18 months after she started the program, 6 months after she finished the program, she bought a house. So she went from a subprime, credit score to qualifying for a reasonable loan, in order to build her own space in her own home. And so that's really exciting. Earlier this year, we had a young woman who has entered in and out of our programs over the years. She is a parent herself, and she re-engaged with us last fall, and it was, it's always great. We have young people stop in and out of our programs all the time, and we welcome them back. And I think, what was really exciting, she joined us when we did our first day at the State House back in February. And while we were down there, she was able to chat with the Lieutenant Governor a little bit about one of her issues in rural Southern Indiana around the lack of housing support systems and individuals she knew who were experiencing homelessness. Before we even left the State House that day, this young woman got a phone call from the housing commissioner in her county, who had already heard from the Lieutenant Governor's office. And fast forward, that was 3 months ago. This young woman's now on the housing commission down there. She's working to bring her church in a neighboring county to talk about how they can support housing. The reason I love that story so much is that in this situation, this young person has found a way to grow and learn from her experiences and build a better world for the others, for her neighbors, for those in her community. And she has recognized that she has something to give to the community, that she has work to do. And, it still gives me chills to think, we played a little role in getting her to the State House that day. She was in the right space at the right time and got to have that conversation with the Lieutenant Governor. And those are the stories that get me really excited. We have a virtual graduation ceremony every May for our students who are graduating from college to celebrate the fact that they've made it there. We started this in May 2020 when all the colleges were canceling graduations. And we were like, well, we have to celebrate this. These students have worked hard, and we may be the only space they can do it. And we thought it might be a one-time thing, but it's even when our students participate in their institutional commencements, they find joy in being in community with one another. And so the national statistic is that 3% of individuals who age out of foster care have a degree by 25. We've looked at some data with our programs recently, and we're looking at about 10% of our students who start college are finishing, which again, that gives me extraordinary pride to see young people being able to work toward that goal and recognize that they're able to achieve that goal.
Yeah. Those are pretty good stories.
It's heartening and humbling. I've been with the organization a little over 5 years, and probably about 3 or 4 months on the job, I was in a situation where I was sitting with some young people who were sharing their stories in very vulnerable and spaces and sharing a lot of details about their background. And that was my takeaway that day that I've held with me ever since. This work is heartening and humbling. I feel privileged to be able to lead this organization and to be, a small part in these young people's lives as they're moving on to whatever is next for them.
Thank you for doing this work. I know that it is extraordinarily heartening and humbling, like you said, but I hope you do take pride in the success stories, because it is a small part, but such a critical little step in their journey. And that makes me happy to know that you're doing that and that it's being done. But there's still a need, if you will, or a space to fill for that. How can we support you, just average people, even if we haven't considered being a foster parent or any other way? How can we support you?
Well, I think first and foremost, we want people to know we're here. Often when people think about children in foster care, they truly are thinking about the children, right? They're thinking about infants and toddlers and young kids. They're not necessarily always thinking about those who are becoming adults in foster care. And so one of my goals, and spaces like this provide the opportunity to let more people know, not only about foster success, but more importantly about the young people we're working with. Because if you're walking down the street, you're not going to be able to pick them out of a crowd, right? And so one, I think if you're looking for something to do, talk about us, let people know who we are. And if you know anyone who you think just might qualify to participate in some of our programs, send them our way. Fostersuccess.org is the easiest way to keep up with us, figure out what's going on. You'll find all our other contact information there. But our team is amazing, and they'll sit down and talk to somebody about their situation and see what they might qualify for. So I think first and foremost, help us get the word out, be aware of our older foster youth in our communities, because they live in every county and across the state. So it's not like any part of the state is absent from this. Second, I would say, we're a nonprofit. My development team would tell me I need to take advantage and tell everybody, we're open for donations, but that can come in a lot of different ways. That can obviously be cash donations. It can be, we do Thankful Thursdays where we ask people to go to our Amazon wish list and look at we have a hygiene pantry, and a basic needs pantry where we can send items to young people who might need them. We collect gift cards to help celebrate birthdays and graduations and other special moments, or help people work through those challenging moments when $50 at Kroger might make the difference of what they need.
The channel to go through for that is still at fostersuccess.org.
Correct. Yep. If you go to our website, you'll see it. And it will connect you to our social media channels, and we post stuff there too. We do have some volunteer opportunities. So, you might not be the person who is ready or wanting to be a foster parent, but you can still support this population through some of our programs. We are always looking for people who are willing just to sit down and have conversations with our young people about their work, about their engagement in the community. We're looking for people who might do resume reviews, mock interviews, and really, again, help expose young people to opportunities in their communities that are out there.
Larry, any other questions you have? Because this has been a great, informative, and I didn't know what to expect, frankly.
It's been very informative for me, as I'm sure it has been for you, Jason, and our audience, and just really appreciate you taking your time, Dr. Stevens, to come on and talk with us. And we are more than happy in any way we can to spread the word about foster success.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Once again, it's fostersuccess.org. We will follow you on social and be in touch and help to promote what you do. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Maggie Stevens, now our friend and President and CEO of Foster Success. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Terrific. It sounds like that's something that everyone can be involved with, if nothing else, to help to raise awareness and to participate in your social media and to just be a part of it.
Great.
It's those things like, the hygiene pantry and different things that, well, of course I can do that. And of course I can help in a small way, because it does sound like a big ask. Oh, I can't foster a child.
Right.
There's something in between nothing and everything.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's a new phrase I just made up. Oh, we also have a new feature on the podcast. We're featuring dad jokes every episode. So, Larry, I have a dad joke for you.
Please.
Okay. So today's dad joke: what did the buffalo say to his little boy leaving for school?
Don't know.
Bye, son.
Gotta love it. Yes. Thank you. You're right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Daddy Issues. Be sure to connect with us on social media. Feel free to email us, dads@thedaddyissuespodcast.com. Daddy Issues is a podcast from the Fathers and Family Center of Indianapolis, Indiana. To learn more about the programs of Fathers and Family Center, visit fathersandfamilycenter.org.